Senator Rubio.
Thank you for being here today, for your willingness to serve, but I do need to touch on this. So you said in the testimonies now on the record, you've acknowledged it, that in your testimony, both written and verbal, in this committee in 2015 in July, you said that Iran would not have access to U.S. financial institutions. You've also said that there was a special license, which I think is well documented in the report that's now on the record, to allow Iran access to U.S. financial institutions. In particular, it was a specific license to a bank in Oman allowing access to U.S. dollars in New York to convert about $5.7 billion worth of Omani riyals into Iranian accounts and into euros. The report that is also on the record also found that OFAC, under your leadership at Treasury, instituted about 200 roadshows. Well, first of all, OFAC actually encouraged 2 U.S. banks to convert these funds. That's what the report found. The 2 banks decided not to do so, but nonetheless, the U.S. Treasury actively encouraged 2 banks to do this. Then Treasury, through OFAC, put on over 200 roadshows across the world, encouraging U.S. banks to do business with Iran, and also telling members of the international banking community not to downplaying basically potential future penalties or fines, stating that 95% of the time, OFAC sends a warning letter or takes no action. In fact, the report found that at least 1 European regulator who attended one of these roadshows commented that foreign financial institutions felt political pressure to conduct business with Iran and Iranian companies. And in fact, the report also found that Treasury Department officials, while you were Secretary of Treasury, officials proactively contacted foreign financial institutions to provide information about the JCPOA sanction relief. In one example, a compliance officer proactively contacted a foreign financial institution to make sure they understood Iran sanctions relief. And this left the foreign financial institution confused since they had no business with Iran up until that point. So we send you a letter, then Senator Kirk and I, on March 30th, 2016, asking you about all this. We ask you about specific licenses and U-turn transactions, and we also ask assurances that the United States will not work on behalf of Iran to enable Iranian access to U.S. dollars elsewhere in the international financial system, including assisting them to gain access to dollar payments outside the U.S. We asked you this in a letter on March 30th, 2016, which I asked that be entered into the record.
Without objection.
You responded on May 11th of 2016, in which you said, we are not planning to reinstate U-turn, and we will continue to vigorously enforce the many sanctions that remain against Iran, including our primary sanctions that generally prohibit Iranian banks from clearing U.S. dollars through the U.S. financial system or holding correspondent account relations in the U.S. That was your response, and I asked that the May 11th, 2016 letter be
Without objection be included in the record.
So we wrote you back in May, I guess 3 days later after this letter, a week after. So we are disappointed that you ignored the request in our March 30th letter, providing assurances that the United States will not work on behalf of Iran to enable Iranian access to U.S. dollars elsewhere in the international system, et cetera. And you responded on June 7th of that year. I asked that June 7th response be entered into the record.
Without objection.
And this is what it says. To be clear, the Department of Treasury is not working on behalf of Iran to enable Iranian access to U.S. dollars elsewhere in the international financial system, nor are we assisting Iran in gaining access to dollar payment systems outside the U.S. financial system. The administration has not been and is not planning to grant Iran access to the U.S. financial system. So basically, the way I would describe this is, your testimony is we were not providing them access to the U.S. financial system. You then issued a special license, which is not published, maybe no one was supposed to find out about it, to help them gain access to the U.S. financial system, then asked 2 banks to help convert the funds. They chose not to do so. You then put on 200 roadshows around the world, encouraging banks around the world to be a part of this and telling them, this is to your OFAC director, don't worry about sanctions, don't worry about penalties, 95% of the time, it's just a warning letter or no action at all. And actually proactively reached out, according to the report, unless you dispute the report, proactively reached out to a bank which said, we don't do any business with Iran, I don't know why they're contacting us. And then when we write you about it, not once, but twice, you deny or mislead that any of this was happening. So these are the facts as I've outlined. Do you dispute any of these facts as they're outlined? And I understand your point that general licenses, specific licenses. The bottom line is, this license was issued. It did exactly what you said we're not supposed to do. Then you guys did the roadshow. You even had people in the State Department saying, and the report found this too, this is not a partisan report. Okay, this report was put together by the Oversight Committee. It found these facts, including emails from people at State Department saying, we are concerned that this exceeds our power under the deal. So how are we supposed to see all of that and then somehow confirm you to this very important post when you've deliberately, in my view, misled me, misled Senator Kirk, misled the Congress on what was happening behind the scenes with regards to all of this?
Mr. Chairman, may I have a moment just to respond?
You may.
Senator, I don't think the facts are exactly the way you describe them. And I think it's important to distinguish between the technical details to facilitate implementation of JCPOA and more broadly welcoming Iran into the U.S. financial community. We didn't, and I took no actions that would do that. I don't think your description of what U.S. and OFAC officials were doing is the same as my memory of what I had people out there doing. I had banks and governments coming to me saying, we want you to do exactly what you described. We didn't do that. What we did was we said exactly what I said in response to the ranking member. We told them what sanctions were lifted, what sanctions remained in place, and we told them to be careful. And Iran got from that the message that we were telling people not to do business with them. That's why they sanctioned me. That's why I've been sanctioned for human rights violations in Iran, and I'm proud of it. We gave them nothing more than we promised in the JCPOA. We can agree or disagree whether that was good policy. But there are other members of this committee who've been sanctioned by Iran. I'm proud to be among them.
Well, just for the, I know one more time, but it's for the record. That's not my allegations of the facts. That is, I'm reading out of the report by the Senate Subcommittee on Investigations, and I do think this needs to be answered.